Hey everybody, welcome to another model building workshop. I am Mr. Allen. I'm coming to you from my basement workshop here in Providence, Rhode Island on behalf of the Community Libraries of Providence. And today we're going to be looking at a couple of different models of the Commonwealth CA-13 Boomerang. This one here is the vintage Airfix kit that's been around for a while and keeps getting reissued. This is in 1/72nd scale, and we're going to have the LTD models or limited models Boomerang here, which is in 1/48 scale. So we're going to talk about both of these guys. Let me show you what the box looked like for the limited one, or LTD. Not sure what the pronunciation is, but here's an example if you can see that. That's what the box looked like. And this one, we'll start with this one here from limited or LTD. 1/48, and this is was a limited run injection molded kit, and it was a difficult model for me to put together. Maybe I just wasn't up for this. I did this a few years ago, but this was a challenge. But the thing is, I thought that the Boomerang was just such a fascinating aircraft that I needed to build one, right? And we still could use a really good kit of this aircraft. So, I mean, it looks decent from a distance, but there's a lot of problems with this kit, or I should say my building of the kit, because I think more experienced modelers may not have had the issues I did. It's got some difficult things here I could not get. I just glued the propeller on there. I couldn't get that to spin. Wheels are in the up position because the landing gear was really difficult for me to fiddle with. Canopy was challenging to get that on. You can see it's yellowed. The decals did not cooperate. I think the one did, and I think that's just that one there. It was the only actual kit decal that survived that I can recall, and the other ones I had to source from another kit. My spares box, I had some left over from a bomber. It doesn't even go to a Boomerang, but hey, this model I would say is pretty much held together by paint. So that's the way I would call it. But it is a fun looking airplane. Look at that, the exhaust pipe is pretty impressive, huh? Yeah, so for now, it's my 1/48 scale version that I have on in my collection. It's, like I said, it's not great, but yeah, you can see that yellowed cockpit glass there, huh? And I just did it in this late war New Guinea scheme, which has a cool white and overall green, which I thought was interesting. Actually, I'll put it back here. And there's the other more well-known one is the Airfix one here. This kit's been around a while. This is in 1/72nd scale. And to be fair, I had some issues with this kit as well. I mean, this is just an old kit. It's been around a long time. I think my version is a 1993, I believe, boxing of it. Yeah, through Homebrew. It's got the classic box art. And this is a kit that I had wanted to build for a long time, so I always thought it was fascinating. The Australian-built fighter plane. We'll get into the history of that in just a moment. But this is, out of the box. Decals managed to work. Do have problems with that. There's a big blob of putty underneath here. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. I did have some issues fitting that wing to the fuselage there. So there's a blob of putty. Could have cleaned that up better by the looks of things, but hey, you put it on a shelf, it still looks okay. Yeah, that big belly tank on it. So I like the wing shape, thus the Boomerang name. I think that's pretty cool. We'll look at the instructions and then we'll get on to the history. How about that? And I think I'll start with the painting options. I'll go backwards this time. And you can see the different painting styles here on these two. And that's the one that I built here. And that is from New Guinea, 1943. And these are used pretty much as Army cooperation aircraft, low-level attack planes. They weren't very good at high altitude. And it's the other one, which is what the 1/48 scale one is supposed to be, this one, but those decals didn't work that I had from LTD. But it would have been depicting this plane here. Although this one here, if you look at it, doesn't have all the white on it. It's just green. It's just green and blue underneath. That's interesting. Yeah, that's just a single color. That's in Bougainville in 1944. You know what? I take this back because there's a lot of things different on this. All right, this one was supposed to be the same squadron, not the exact same plane, because this has got a different mascot on it. And I think I've got those decals still in the box here. Yeah, it's got a Donald Duck emblem. I don't know if you can really see that there. And the one here is known as, I think it's called Hepcat, with the cat on it. Anyway, just correcting myself there. So the assembly is very basic. So it gives you an idea of the date of this plane, because it's a very simple. I mean, most of your work you're going to have here is painting that pilot. The rest of it's pretty straightforward. I did have issues with the propeller on this one. I think the issue that I had was that the holes in the engine were slightly off, so it spun in an awkward orbit, shall we say, so I just glued it in one position. A lot of different painting notes in here. And then there's the rest of it. So it's a very short build. There's not much to do here. These very simple early Airfix kits. And that's all you got for instructions for building it, and that's all you need to do. It's a pretty straightforward build. But again, with some added work, you could probably make an improved version of that. And here's the history on it, then the CA-13. So basically, this is the first fighter craft that was developed and built in Australia. So this was considered what is labeled here as a panic fighter, because when the Japanese in the early days of World War II swept the Pacific, suddenly Australia found itself sitting by itself as the rest of the Allied countries had been driven out of the Pacific at that point. The United States was pushed out, and Britain was pushed out. France had already been contained from their surrender, and the Dutch had also been pretty much knocked out as well. So Australia was sitting there by itself, along with, New Zealand too. We're kind of sitting there going, oh great, we're on our own. So they needed to develop something quick. And they didn't have much of an industry at the time. So what they did is Commonwealth Aircraft Corporation designed and built this panic fighter. The original one was a CA-12. And they did it in a matter of weeks. So the development and the production order of 105 machines was placed in January of 1942, and the first flight took place in May of 42. So that's a really quick turnaround time. And it entered service in an operational training unit by the summer of 42. So that's very quick to develop an airplane. Granted, they were working with things that were in existence in the country already. I mean, they had to. They couldn't import anything. They couldn't get anything from anywhere else. So they had to use the Pratt & Whitney engines that were around, and they worked off. They had the Whirlaway training aircraft, so they worked off parts of pieces from that design and kind of cobbled something together and came up with this. And it was in service for air defense duties in the Northern Territories in early of 1943 with number 84 Squadron. And then the CA-13 came along, which is improved. And with its low altitude and great handling, it, as I mentioned, it became an Army cooperation aircraft and did a lot of ground attack duties. And it was very successful for that. Yes, it's the only Australian fighter of indigenous design to achieve operational service. So that's noteworthy. So I am surprised that there's not more kits available of this airplane, because it does have an interesting slot in history, Yeah, it used a 1,200 horsepower Pratt & Whitney engine, twin Wasp, two-row radial, maximum speed of about 300 miles an hour. So yeah, what was it armed with? Two Hispano cannons of 20 millimeter strength, and it also had four 7.7 or 0.303 inch Browning machine guns as well. So it's well armed. Not bad. And we'll take a look at this here. I believe it's the first plane in the book, once I get through all the introduction forwards and whatnot. And there she is there, right on the top, along with some check planes underneath it. Tough and versatile aircraft, mainly used in New Guinea. Yep. And there she is. So we have both this one here from Airfix in 72nd scale, and the LTD in 1/48 scale. I believe Special Hobby now does a 1/48 scale, which is also a limited run company, so I'm not sure how that one is. I'm sure it's an improvement over this. So we will see you next time on the Model Building Workshop. Keep on building and have fun out there. All right, we'll see you soon.